everyone, and welcome to the talk with the whole parenting. My name is Louise, and I am a mom. I am also a family and child development consultant. And today we have with us Jerrilyn Fabien, who is a wellness coach. She is also a naturopathic doctor. She has a Master's of Science in Rehabilitation Counseling, and she has a first degree in behavioral science. Jerrilyn helps people to align with their authentic self in her role. And Jerrilyn, we're so happy to have you with us today. And I just want you to tell us a little bit more about yourself so we understand who Jerrilyn is, the Jerrilyn that I love because so long. But tell our audience a little bit about who you are so that they can get you.
I must admit, it's been a while since somebody has described me by my title. So when you say, tell me about yourself, I'm like, okay, now I get to talk about me. Because it's been a while since I've described myself by this title. Really and truly, everything that I've lived, every area of life that I've explored, not the naturopathic field, counseling, my passion has always been working with people and helping people to align with the best version of themselves. And that's what I live for. That's what my passion is. Every encounter that I have, I want people to leave feeling complete and feeling whole about who they came into this world to be.
And that comes across in who you are in every conversation we've had. And I am very biased here because you're my friend for so many years, but it is what it is. It's the truth. It's the truth.
Thank you.
Now, Jerrilyn, I began a series on self-regulation in parenting recently on Talk Time Tuesday, which is the program that we have, the whole parenting, as you know about. And in part of that series, we want to delve into self-care. Because in order for us to be able to self-regulate and be the type of parents that we need to be for our children, we have to take care of ourselves. So that's where it starts.
Right.
And this is what the whole parenting is all about, that we need to start with ourselves and then go on to our kids. Now, in order to be able to self-regulate as parents, we need to take care of ourselves, as I said before. And this journey involves understanding our purpose.
Right.
I want you to talk to us today about our purpose and how this helps us with self-regulation, or we can go on into that, talking about how it helps us with self-regulation, and in turn being able to parent our children in the way that they should be parented. Now, can we start by you explaining to us a little bit about what purpose is all about? Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's interesting that you asked that question, because many times, going back to the label, right? Many times when people ask about purpose, you tend to think about what I want to be, all right? But when we talk, or what I want to do in life, when we talk about purpose, what stands out to me is, who did you come to be? Not in terms of a title, not in terms of a label, but what are you, who are you growing into that's going to be of contribution to this world, right? And that stems from our life experiences. Our beliefs and our experiences help to formulate our authentic purpose in life. So it's all about matching up to that authentic version of yourself. And it doesn't matter what that looks like. If somebody's living the fullness of who they came into this world to be, then you're living your purpose.
Yes.
You're living your purpose. Yeah.
So, Jerrilyn, can you tell us a little bit more about about purpose, but about how it comes about? How do we know what our purpose is? How do we get to the point where we we find out what our purpose is and we can align with that.
Okay, so I believe we came into this world with a sense of knowing. Many times we don't remember, you know, because by the time we get to the age of 5, we've been conditioned by society as to what we should be doing, that should factor, okay? But we came into this world with a internal navigational system. I like to call it our little internal GPS, all right? And that tends to steer us on the path that we're on. Many times, however, we've turned off. You can't really turn it off, but we've numbed it so much that we are not even familiar with that guidance pattern, okay? And so what happens is that we have to go through a state of remembering. Now, what all that GPS does is guiding us. Just like you're driving and the thing says, go this way, and you go that way, redirecting, you have to go back on that path, right? And that's all our internal GPS is doing. It's guiding us. And the way we can tell when we're steering from that is because of the discord that we feel. Now, in religious settings, some people might call that the spirit, all right? Some individuals call it source. Is that guidance within us that knows, never wavers, but it knows who we are. All right, the you that you have yet to discover with your physical eyes, that internal GPS knows. All right, it's like the motherboard, and it's like literally guiding you along your path. Anytime, because it's so consistent, anytime we deviate, all right, we sense the discord. All right, and that happens through our emotions. Sadly, many of us have been taught not to trust our emotions, all right, because it can be deceptive. When in fact, if we can acquaint ourselves with, okay, this is what it feels like when I'm aligned. And by aligned, I mean I'm in sync with who I came to be, all right? When I'm in my, there's a term that has been used, when I'm in my element, it just feels perfect, good timing, everything is great. Right? I'm in line with my inner GPS, okay? And you're literally in that moment living in your purpose, all right? There's no right or wrong, you're living in your purpose. And even when you may stare off from that GPS, just like, you know, we've been programmed to think that there could be a point of no return, but just like your GPS, all it does is redirects and redirects and redirects until you start lining up yourself with who you are. All right. And as we continue, the more we become acquainted with that, okay, we line up our conscious selves with our unconscious selves, because there is that unconscious that just has us running on autopilot. But the more we become acquainted with that internal guidance and be more intentional about wanting to feel in line with who we are. All right, and that takes a lot of practice, because it comes against conditioned beliefs. It comes against also perceptions. Okay, we have certain needs, and depending on where you are at in terms of the need that is important to you, okay, it may make it easier or even more difficult. If right now my need is for belonging and acceptance, okay, but my internal GPS is steering me off a path that would cause individuals to look at me differently, there's a conflict going on. What do I choose at this particular time? Okay, but if we make our lives work to always line up with that GPS, all right, always ask ourselves in every moment, how does this feel right now? What am I being led to in this moment? And the more we seek to line up with that, we're walking in our purpose.
Now, you talk about not walking in your purpose and not aligning yourself with your internal GPS. And you mentioned that it manifests itself in certain ways. Can you give us some examples of how not aligning with your purpose can manifest itself? Because I think you mentioned that. How does it manifest itself? So if I am not aligning with my purpose, me, Louise, what does that look like? How does that?
That's a very good question. You know, we have quite a bit of, we have quite some labels, and they're justifiably so, okay, that individuals walk around with. Now, I tell people all the time, when you own something, you make yourself one with it. All right. So I am one person who will tell people, don't walk around saying, I have diabetes.
Okay.
Diabetes does not belong to me. I didn't create it. It's not my friend. I don't want it. Okay. I do have a condition, even using the word have, right, is taking ownership. But I have been diagnosed with, it's a diagnosis. Okay.
Yeah.
Many times there are physical situations that manifest simply because we're not aligning with who we came into this world to be. And our body, the same body where that internal GPS dwells, right?
Yeah.
When we deviate from that, we feel the discord, okay? If you experience, I'm gonna give a blatant example, in the moment where you become, someone becomes fearful and they wet their pants.
Yeah.
It was a physical response to an emotional trigger, right? This happens all the time. All right. And the more we deviate, the more you feel the physical ramifications of that. For some, the very basic appearance of it is when it manifests itself through, quote unquote, a mental breakdown.
Okay.
Okay. Because it's a deviation. Many times individuals who are labeled as such, all they're experiencing is a deviation from the them that they came in this world to be. All right. And sadly enough, for these individuals to line up with that version of themselves, it also takes a deviation from the norm. And that creates a discord that, like I was mentioning earlier, it's like, okay, if I do this, then who? It literally redefines who I am. And for many people, that is a world caving in. Okay, so the physical demonstration, our body tells us, okay, we have this ease, figure that out. We have this ease in our body. All right, mentally, there's some disconnect that occurs, but all it is, you know, we make a much to do about a lot, but if we can just see it at its basic terms of, I just need to line up. I just need to get back in line with whatever my internal GPS, my source, is guiding me on. Everything is okay. Everything. That's why I always remind people, there's nothing going wrong here. Everything is okay. And whatever you're going through in this moment makes perfect sense based on the life that you've lived. Yeah. Right? So that's one of the main ways in which, you know, our body tells us all the time, if I am holding back, right? I'm holding myself back from expressing. We physically feel our throat tightening up, right? You feel that. You know, if you've ever had a heartbreak, you feel it in your heart. Go figure, right? But there's so many other manifestations of us deviating from the wholeness of who we are that we've just accepted as the norm. And there are avenues to line up and to not have to experience those physical indicators. All there are symptoms and indicators.
Yeah. And I guess, and you hear people talk about, you know, an unsettling feeling, almost like a troubling of the waters kind of thing. Like, unless you will always feel troubled that you are not yet fulfilled because you haven't met the purpose that God, you know, has intended for you to fulfill on this earth, because you haven't met it. So there's always a trouble.
And that would be the reason as well why you would find people who maybe even revered by some, right? Because they live that image of what people think life should look like. But deep down, only you know whether you're lining up with that version of yourself. And it doesn't matter what accolades you have, it doesn't matter what everybody else feels. If you do not feel, because that guidance will never leave you, all right? And if you do not feel that you are lining up with that authentic version of yourself, you always feel that separation. Not that anything is wrong, it's that guidance letting you know that something needs to be here.
I guess for parents listening, it's important to understand when those things are happening within you and understand what it is that is happening, because
Yes.
I think to self-regulate and to be fully present for our children, we need to be aware of what's happening within us. And when something is troubling and something is unsettling, we need to know this is happening because of X, Y, Z, and I may need to do X, Y, Z so that I can sort this problem out, so that I can be more available for my children. And you, it's not just, I'm saying be more available for my children because this is a parenting show, but it's not just for your children, it's for yourself as well. You need to do it for yourself so that you can go on and care for other people, your loved ones around you, and that pertains to everyone around you.
Yeah, you know, quite often people, sorry to stop you, but quite often people would say you can't drink from an empty cup.
No.
We've heard that you can't give from an empty cup. We've heard that so many times, but with parenting, it's even more so, because we have been taught, probably because we've just modeled it from generation to generation.
Yeah.
You know, we would have spoken, Louise, about how our relationships with our parents have changed as we continue to get older, right?
Yeah.
We have been taught to revere parents and see them as above, and we are down here, all right? And then you become an adult and you realize they were just people trying to figure things out, all right, and do the best that they could do. But the key thing here is that they, in some ways, unless we become very conscious to do things differently, they model to us what life is supposed to look like.
Yeah.
That sometimes helps to create a discord, because here it is, your parents who you revere and you see as the authority is modeling consciously or subconsciously, all right? Sometimes you see the fear and the pain in their eyes, and we literally mirror what we see. So if a parent doesn't make their work, their ultimate work, to be lining up with their true purpose, literally you're teaching without words. This is how life is supposed to be.
Yeah.
This is how life is supposed to be. And many times we do not even understand how kids would repeat certain cycles. We have generational cycles being repeated. Nothing was ever spoken of it. However, kids are mirroring everything that we are living. We are putting out a certain aura in the air, right? And kids are growing up in that environment and literally repeating what was modeled to them. So if not for anything else, for ourselves, and so that we shift the trajectory and we shift the pattern for our new generations, we need to do this work.
Set up a foundation, set up something else that gives your child more than you have for yourself. And it's not just about finances, it's not just about what we leave for them that's tangible, it's the intangible that we leave for them, as well. Now, we've spoken about what happens when we do not follow our purpose. Can you tell us, so that we are more conscious of it, because we need to think of this in a more conscious way. What are some things, and I think you touched on some of them, but what are some things that could stop us from following our internal GPS? So we have this internal GPS. You would think that because this is so natural, we feel it, I feel it, you know, most of us feel that internal almost call into something, you know, and we have a strong desire to do something. Some people have a strong desire to help the homeless. Some people have a strong desire to work with children. Some people have strong desires to be on, you know, a spiritual helper, or, you know, whatever it is. And we feel all these desires. Some people have strong desires to be designers, you know. We feel all these desires, but we want to step away from it. What could cause that?
I love that question. Because it happens to the best and the worst. And it's a comforting thought, because many times we experience it and we judge ourselves with guilt and shame. Okay,
Yeah.
but it happens to just about every iconic individual that you would have come across. And all it is we've been conditioned to think that this is how life is supposed to be, whatever that supposed looks like, okay?
Yeah.
And you experience that in a cultural setting, you experience that in religious setting, you experience that in the educational system, even in politics, right? This is how things are supposed to be. You know, families set these guidelines, these guidelines on from generation. Oh, our family lives like this. We do this. It's a groupthink type of mentality that sets itself up in such a way that if you deviate from that, you are the odd one. And we all want to be at some point accepted, right? At some point accepted. And so the conditioning begins at an early age, whether it's through the religious system, whether it's through education, culturally, we've been conditioned, and every individual's conditioning feels normal to them. Okay? Yeah. By conditioning, I mean you've been exposed to it so much that that becomes your normal. All right? And to experience anything different from your normal takes you out of your quote unquote comfort zone. All right? It takes a repetition of living and doing things a certain way and realizing, wait a minute, this does not line up with who I am, before you really start evaluating, what am I holding on to that is causing me to experience what is being birthed from me at this time. Okay, but our beliefs and our experiences, okay, as we continue to live life without being aware, without being conscious of the significance of our GPS, those two factors would create scenarios that continue to confirm after one after the other that this is how things are supposed to be, until we start asking ourselves some basic questions like, who am I? Okay, so the conditioning could look anywhere, like educationally speaking, you know, you are supposed to be, when we're growing up and people ask you what you're supposed to be, the natural question, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. Okay? I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but I had a friend recently who told me her child told her that she wants to be a YouTuber. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. That's blasphemy back in the 80s. You get what I'm saying? But I said to her, you know what? It is actually a good sign, a good indicator that your child feels free enough to tell you this. Yeah. Because when we were growing up, that was we knew you don't even utter a statement like that.
Well, we were conditioned. You know, and I guess you and I grew up in the same culture and religion, and
yes.
and we know how it was. I mean, in the community that we grew up in, education was seen as
paramount. That was the most important factor.
Do it, and it's almost as if there was no other thought.
Exactly.
Couldn't think of doing anything else that was outside of being educated, having a tertiary education, and attaining as much as possible as you can. And I guess that impacts on us even now. You know.
Exactly.
Who is to know? Many of us may have had different GPS systems. Ended up going down this road that we're on, or going down a road that was very academic. Because I mean, most of the people that I grew up with, a lot of the people that I grew up with in our community are very academic today. You know, and we know why.
Exactly. You were conditioned.
Yeah, some of us may have just wanted to be artists.
A dancer, or, you know, a singer. Yeah. But you're told singers and artists, they don't make money. That's what we were told. Yeah. You know, so even if that was the passion that woke you up, every time you heard someone singing, or every time you started singing, every time you picked up a pencil to draw, you became alive. In the back of your mind, artists don't make money. Yeah. So this is a waste of time. It's a hobby. It's a hobby. You can have that as a hobby, not as a job. You know, we don't do this. You know, and religiously speaking, if you consider religion, that one is a hot button issue, because what many individuals do not realize that when it comes to religion, for most individuals, you've been conditioned within just one framework, right? And so it doesn't matter what background you have, considering that everybody is living life through that box, all right, because they've not been exposed to something else. It's something worth considering. How much have I been conditioned? And sadly, there are, even in a religious environment, beliefs that you would have been taught and conditioned to believe is the only way. And those very beliefs would have been steering you away from your GPS. I dare give one. I dare give one.
Go ahead.
And I'm passionate about this one.
Yes.
You know, there's so many people walking around feeling like they're not good enough. And I hold to the thought that this was ingrained in us from childhood, because we walk around saying we're not worthy. You literally repeat it all the time. I'm not worthy, but for whatever, right? I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. Now, the very teachers and the very individuals that we revere, right? When we say we're not worthy, they never once opened their mouth and told anybody around them that they were not worthy. However, this was just something that was passed on from generation to generation. We walk around, we sing songs, we put our hands in the air saying we're not worthy. Not realizing that that transfers into every area of your life. What you speak, you speak those things over your life, right? And we internalize. Every time you say something, you say, I am, whatever follows it literally describes you. Yeah. So if you're walking around saying that, even if it was propagated by religion, you are literally conditioning yourself, right? Walking around with the belief that I'm never going to be good enough. Yeah. And people live their lives always seeking to match up to something and always feeling that imposter syndrome that we spoke about, because deep down you're feeling like, I'm not good enough. I don't match up. You know, I don't belong here.
I think, let's go into the imposter syndrome thing, because we've had this discussion separately. Yeah. But, let's have the discussion now. In analytic psychology, we have a term called the shadow. And it speaks about destructive belief systems that we have, you know, unconscious beliefs that influence our entire lives and tell us what we can and cannot do. And we have things like imposter syndrome, where you've attained something in life, or life has, you know, different circumstances in life have brought you to the point where you've attained this. And you feel like an imposter, and you sit there waiting to be found out. You are very qualified to what you do, far more qualified than some other people. And you are not an imposter, but you have this sense that you don't belong where you are because you've attained what you've attained. How do you see imposter syndrome when it comes to our internal GPS, our purpose and our alignment? Do you think that we have gone out of our alignment with our GPS when we have imposter syndrome? Or is that the destructive belief systems that we have that keep blocking us? Because some of us are try hard enough to attain what our purpose, the troubling that we have. We know we need to attain something, and we have that troubling, and we're trying to attain it. But no matter how you try, you keep facing the blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Is the imposter syndrome just another block trying to get you to not be what you, as you said, the term you are here to be?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it us going off our GPS, our alignment?
It
What?
could. I like that question. I think it could be a combination of both factors, right? When you're holding, and we continuously will be confronted with beliefs that we would need to relinquish as we continue to expand. Okay,
Yeah.
if there's anybody who's holding on to certain beliefs and you say this is the ultimate and I will never deviate from this, it's very possible that you're creating a block, right? And for many individuals, when you get to that point, you will find that you're resisting so much, you're pushing against so much that is literally a door or a wall, all right? And on the other side is the wholeness of who you are. You're free, you're authentic, you're bold. You can stand in that same knowing, in the same position, all right? But it's necessary to get to this door, right? And you can come back to the very same position, the very same role, and function with so much passion that you're unstoppable, right? The very opposite could be the case as well, right? After you have broken down these barriers, broken down is such a cliche, but after you have released the resistance to some of those belief systems, you may find that this no longer serves you. This no longer serves you, and this was just the facade that I was living up to. This was who I was supposed to be, and no wonder why I felt like an imposter, because, you know, it was never really my authentic self. It was just the person I thought I was supposed to. And some people play their roles very well, right? But it's just that, a role. Okay. Then you release resistance. You realize that some belief systems were not serving you anymore, and you realize, oh my goodness, this is another version of me. Thank you very much. You served me well while you were around. But now it's on to something more, and then you find yourself, same thing, living with your passion. So it's all about our beliefs. I believe beliefs is a big factor. All right, about ourselves, about the world, about the story we tell ourselves about ourselves. Right? That we experience from conditioning, from modeling and mirroring what we think is supposed to be, all right, our reality. And working through that is all about matching up with our authentic self and aligning with who we are. And you never really know what that reality looks like until you become willing. I've heard someone say this before, become willing to be willing. You may not even know what the answer is, but you're at least willing to be open to what that looks like. And for many individuals, the only thing stopping them is their fear of what could be. They don't know what that looks like, and so they prefer to remain in the comfort zone. But we never thrive when we're living in our comfort zone, you know.
Now, to wrap this up nicely, can you tell us, how do we come to the point where we follow through and lean towards our internal guidance system? So we know we've spoken about what it is, you know, the importance of our purpose. We've spoken about how it can manifest itself physically and emotionally when we don't align with our purpose. We've spoken about some of the things that could stop us from aligning with our purpose. What are some things, and I know there may be quite a few and we don't have the time for it, but can you give us one or two examples of things that we can do to understand what our purpose is and help us to tap into our purpose?
So many times, and you know, going back to, for some people who have been so engulfed with a belief or conditioning that causes them to not even be able to have pegs to hang on, for lack of a better term. You may ask them, what do you like to do? Okay, I'm talking about professionals. They have it all together at work, and you ask them, what do you like to do for fun? And they're like, fun? I don't know, right? Because their life has been so structured all along, and we've learned to compartmentalize so much that outside of that aspect of ourselves that tends to be the dominant side, many people are not living, they're just existing.
Yeah.
And what I've guided individuals is to go back to that time in your life when you felt the most authentic, the most free, the most uninhibited. And for many, it's all the way back to our early years. What did you like to do as a child? Now, if you've experienced significant trauma, it may take some more work. Okay, for some individuals, it may literally mean you have to rewrite or create a new story. All right. But for many, I take them back to as a child. What did you enjoy doing as early as you can remember? I remember my earliest experience. I was 2 years old, and my mom was taking a trip, and I was on her shoulder looking at the ocean. We were on a boat. Always go back to that experience. Hence, you know, my business name, Constant Flow. I love water. It helps to ground me, right? Anytime I'm feeling scattered, take me to some waterfall, the river flowing, it helps to ground me. That's my earliest experience, all right? And when I started really seeking, intentionally so seeking, you know, to be more aligned, that memory came back very, very powerfully. All right. Another memory that I have when I was about 3 or 4, as early back then, I just always remember painting my nails. My mom used to say, "Oh, you like to dance so much," and I really do. For years, this was not very. It was not something that I practiced that much. But she saw it when I was 3 years old. In addition to that, I would go out in the yard. She would ask me to water the plants. We had a lot of flowers, and I'd go outside to water the plants. And my mom always spoke about how I would be teaching the plants. I would have a little stick, and I'd be teaching the plants and giving them good counsel. Now, who was I back then? You know, all my report books have, you know, great student talks too much. Now I want to thank those teachers. All right. Back then it was associated with some shame. But I go back to those times, and this was me. This was who I was from the time I was 3 years old. Along the way, we learned that we have to shift from that, you know, because that's child's play. But you go back to that time, that was the most authentic stage in your life. And literally as children, we had a stronger knowing and more aligning of who we were and who we came into the world to be, until we were taught to shift away from that. So that's one of the things I would ask people to do, just for fun. Just think back to your early years, okay? And if you experience some trauma, it may take some guidance to literally create a new story, okay? Because that childhood experience would be a more realistic mirror of the older version of yourself. And then you start lining up with that. Literally, I started dancing again. I'm not a professional, guys, but I do it for fun. You know, I do it for fun to prime myself up to start the day, and it's exciting, you know. And so that's one of the advice that I would give. That's one of the quickest experiences I see with the shift, with people trying to figure out who they are. That's the one that seems to just hit the nail. The other advice that I would give is, day by day, spend some time being still. Take time out to be still, whatever that looks like for you. For some individuals, it's literally sitting still and meditating. For some, nature helps to ground you, and you will feel that shift if you go outdoors and you just feel a sense of calm and peace, because then you're making room for you to really shut the chatter off, so you can hear and become familiar with. That's what meditation is, becoming familiar with that internal GPS, okay? For some, it may be art. For some, it's drawing. For some, it's dancing. Whatever it is that brings you into that zone, It starts by just being still, and then you're guided, right?
Yeah.
So that's one of the major factors I would say as well. Okay, it shuts off the chatter so that you can hear, and then you start lining up with, oh, this feels different. Okay, and you get used to feeling better. For some people, they're so used to feeling discord that was their normal, but the minute you start feeling a sense of ease, and that's the goal, to get you to a place
Yeah.
of a better feeling thought and a better feeling thought, and you practice those things. Practice speaking to yourself. I had someone stand in front of a mirror and just say some very powerful words like, I am beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that may not shift you in the moment, but it will cause you to recognize that there is a discord between what I'm saying and what I really believe about who I am. And that might lead you on the path to discovering. Right, exactly. Exactly.
And then I guess I don't want us to stop without possibly saying, you know, something about whether our purpose can be multifaceted, because I think, I think people can often think that their purpose is boxed into one area, and I guess, do we think about how our interests, our passions, our talents, gifts, everything we have, all come together to help with our purpose.
Right.
Instead of thinking, oh, you know, it's just I'm made for this one thing and there's nothing else. You know, you might be academic, but you might also be arty.
Right.
You know, how can you combine both to reach your purpose? Or how does that help you to see where your purpose is, I guess?
You know, I think quite often we get boxed in when we give ourselves a label. So somebody asks you who I am. Well, I am a doctor, or I am a nurse, I am a teacher, all right? And then all of a sudden, everything else, I'm a mother even. Everything else that describes you is naturally connected to that. When we're talking about alignment and living our purpose, it's all about, who did you come into this world to be? Who did you come into this world to be? And what does that look like? All right? So if I came into this world to be a light, all right, to help people to align with their self, what does that look like? Is it limited to me being a teacher, or does it mean that if I go out and I'm having a good time, that instead of holding myself back and sitting in a corner, that I literally become involved in the conversation and bring people together? I'm living in my purpose when I'm doing that, right? If you're a doctor, is it limited to doing a good surgery on your client and making sure that, you know, you don't get sued? Or does it mean that you really leave an impact on the person who came into your life, that they're never the same once they leave your office? You know,
you can. Doesn't mean that you can't knit hats and knit for your
exactly.
You know, use your art side to fulfill your purpose. You might need a doctor.
I saw a YouTube video, or was it an Instagram, some social media video of a doctor who braided his client's hair before, either before she had surgery or after she had surgery. And I thought, oh my goodness. And you know what? Those things warm our, you know why those things excite us and they warm our heart? Because it aligns with even the GPS within us.
Yeah.
You know, we see it and we get lit just from looking at a video like that, because we know that this is who we came into this world to be. It's not about a label. You know, who cares about, you know, what you do at the end of the day if it doesn't come with the passion of who you came into this world to be? You know, so definitely I don't think it's limited to any one role that we perform. The role is just, you know, things like that are like the icing on the cake, the extra perks, okay? But lining up with who we came to be, you may find that you are so multifaceted that you just can't be put in a box. You know, somebody sees you today in your white coat and the next day you're like on the dance floor and the next day you're in the park meditating, just because that's all who you are. you know, all who you came into this world to be.
And like you say, your purpose might be to bring light. Your purpose might be to bring joy to everybody you come in contact with, or to bring joy to children, or to bring joy to a certain group of adults, or you know, something like that. And everything that you have comes together to read that purpose.
You know, I want to add to that. This is a very it's I might almost say weird, but not a thought to consider, that everybody we come across, no matter what's going on in their life, no matter if they're aware of walking in their purpose or not, they're serving a purpose in our life. Yes. They're serving a purpose in our life in that given moment. And that is the reason why we can't knock our path. Whether or not we felt like, oh, we were misaligned before, you can't knock your past, all right? As much as you, as a matter of fact, to appreciate your now and where you're heading, you have to bless your past, okay? Yes. Because some unfortunate situations and experiences in our life that would have been propagated by other individuals were blessings to open up to us what our true purpose in life is.
Yeah. Jerrilyn, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We could continue this conversation for a long time.
Awesome,
but we'll have you back. A bit more. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you supporting this and
supporting. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
The work and sharing with us. And how can people get in contact with you? Because you have a practice and you have a successful practice so far. So we want for people to be able to get in touch with you, to do some work with you if they so desire. Can you tell us, you can tell us where. I'll also add it to the video during editing, but please do tell us how we can get in contact with you.
So you can find me online at www.constant-flow.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Evelisa_in_constant-flow. All right, you'll find me on Instagram. On Facebook is Constant Flow. All right, and we could set up virtual sessions. If you are in Houston, you could hit me up and we could meet in person. But yes, at this time I do quite a bit of virtual sessions. I promise you, it's just as good as being in person.
And it's the way everything is now. We're all doing virtual sessions, trust me.
Yep.
And it's working. So
you have to make it come alive, yeah.
We have to make it come alive. It's just what it is right now. It's the world we live in now. Thank you again, Jerrilyn.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you coming on, and thank you everyone who joined us today. Remember to please like and share this video if you enjoyed the content and if you felt it was helpful for you and it may be helpful for someone else. Please do like and share, but also remember to subscribe to this channel so that and hit that notification bell so that you continue to receive informative and life-changing and valuable content as we continue to bring them to you every week. Have a lovely week and see you next Tuesday.